This it's all fun and games till you disrespect. Know what you talking about before you speak, goofy. Craig went on to respond, goofy, LOL, you a wild man. With all respect, this ain't that. Now you know it's not a duo without the other half jumping in as well.
So after the comments, man, Craig Smith doubled down and he had made a video responding to the comments. So I would like to highlight that video. Let's check out this next clip right here, guys.
Hey, Matt Barnes, a goofy? Ain't you the one that drove a couple 100 miles to beat up Derek Fisher over a bitch that still had his semen on her breath? Ain't you the goofy that drove hundreds of miles, 20 counties, 15 jurisdictions to put your hands on a nigga over a bitch that had his DNA on her breath? Goofy? Nigga, shut up before I call Mo Cheeks. Be quiet before I call Mo Cheeks. God! You a ball player, man. You niggas trick on bitches and learn how to read good later in life. What is that? That's my name. Oh. And that's the problem with some of these ex-athletes doing podcasts, man. They brands is for 9-year-olds, white gold diggers, and goofy niggas that's into Jordans. My brand is for the everyday working man. Get it from God. God!
Said everyone should take a joke, until the joke landed on them. One quick roast, a comment thread that turned into a courtroom, and a 4-word challenge that made the internet hold its breath. This is the clip that sprinted from punchline to punch-out, and the receipts you missed while the timeline argued about feelings versus facts. 3 names, 1 powder keg. Craig Smith, roast king with a grin that means duck. Steven Stack Jackson and Matt Barnes, ex-NBA enforcers who traded elbows for microphones and built a show that promises one thing, smoke. Add Vernon Maxwell, the beloved wild card whose stories still come in hot, and you've got friction before anyone speaks. This isn't comic versus athletes, it's freedom versus code. Comics live by say it and survive it. Athletes live by respect is the floor. 2 rule books, 1 room, millions watching. 1 tight joke can dent a logo, 1 hard line can turn fans into a jury. That's the currency now, reputation. Craig doesn't swing at the guest. He jabs the brand, mock the banner over the door, and everyone inside hears it, which is why the next line doesn't just land, it ignites. He doesn't swing at Vernon, he swings at the sign over the door. It ain't all the smoke if Vernon can't smoke when he wants to. That's not a punchline, it's a brand flip. It questions the title, the vibe, the whole promise of the show. Then he twists it, change it to some of the smoke. Short, sticky, performable. The kind of line people quote in group chats and drop under clips just to watch the room react. You don't have to explain it, you just say it and let it burn. But Craig doesn't stop at clever. He pokes the legend myth, the wild energy folks romanticize from back in the day, and suggests it wasn't heroic so much as habits. Crude? Yes. Clean? Never. Effective? Absolutely. Because when a joke brushes a nerve, the timeline rushes in like it heard a fire alarm. The room's laughing. Then the comments grow up. Stack steps in with the part clips always skip. Why that 95 moment exploded. It wasn't random rage. The heckling hit a wound that never really closes. A family loss, and a line no human should have to hear. Suddenly, the highlight isn't a meme. It's a scar. And the second you remember that, the laugh sits differently in your throat. Now the crowd splits. One side, jokes are jokes. The other, not when they bleed. Barnes adds his rule of the house. Talk if you want, but know what you're talking about. That's athlete code. In comedy, exaggeration is a tool. In athlete culture, exaggeration is disrespect. 2 value systems. 1 comment thread, collision achieved. And with the mood flip from clever to consequential, everybody's next move matters. Because after context lands, punchlines start carrying weight, and replies start sounding like choices. He doesn't retreat, he reloads. Instead of arguing the joke, Craig drags out the headline everybody remembers about Matt, the folklore version the internet won't let die. The meme says 95 miles. Matt's correction says 15 minutes to check on his kids. Guess which one the timeline loves? Not the tidy one. Craig knows that. He leans into the messy cut because messy travels. It's harsh, It's not perfectly fair, but it yanks the camera off Vernon and plants it squarely on Barnes. Then he shifts gears from roast to positioning. He basically says, your show speaks to highlight reels and sneaker talk. My jokes speak to the folks who clock in, clock out, and want laughs that don't flinch. Believe the split or not, it's a calculated frame. He isn't just clapping back. He's carving lanes, telling each audience where to stand. That's brand warfare disguised as banter, and the subtext lands loud. If this is about image, he'll chip at the image. If it's about code, he'll test the code. The crowd feels the floor tilt. You came for a roast. You stayed for a rebrand. But he isn't the only one who can raise the stakes. And the next 4 words prove it. 4 words turned a spicy thread into a 5-alarm headline. We can box whenever. That's the jump from comment chess to real stakes. Up to now, it was tone, pride, and who owned the mic. The second a challenge drops, thumbs stop scrolling and heart rates go up. Spectators become narrators. People pick sides, even the ones who never saw the original roast. Watch how fast the plot flips. It isn't, was the joke clever, or did the context matter anymore? It's, is he serious? And will they actually do it? Opinions are endless. A fight is a result. The promise of a result pulls in gamblers, historians, and rubberneckers in one wave. Engagement spikes for the simplest reason. Nobody wants to miss a moment they can retell like they were there. Craig's reply is a masterclass in tempo. Indeed, no rant, no paragraph. A 1-word contract. On the internet, calm reads as control. It feels like a tape measure sliding out and gloves getting laced. Quiet, confident, inevitable. Here's the part most people miss. Escalation doesn't just test toughness, it tests brand. If your lane is conversation, humor, and clever flips, swinging can cost you the high ground. If your lane is edge, and say it with your chest, backing off dents the armor. 2 men, sure, but really, it's 2 logos trying not to blink. And once a ring gets mentioned, every old headline crawls out of storage. Receipts get cherry-picked. Exaggerations clock back in like they never left. The present becomes a remix of every story the audience already believes. Truth and folklore start sharing a cup. So yes, 4 words lit the fuse. But the blast wasn't just anger, it was attention math. When a room smells smoke, nobody cares who struck the match. They stare at the door, which leads to the only question that hits harder than any punch. If this started as comedy, where do jokes stop being jokes? That's the landmine we're stepping on next. This is where it gets sticky. A minute ago, the message sounded simple. Everybody is fair game. If you live in public, you live with jokes. Easy to say when the punchline hits someone else. A lot harder when it lands in your lap. Suddenly, context matters. Tone matters. The same joke that felt like fair play starts tasting like disrespect. Is that hypocrisy or just being human? Honestly, both. We want comedy with teeth, but we also want our scars kept sacred. We cheer quick wit when the target is famous. We flinch when it's our own name in the blender. You can't have both without friction. And that friction, that's the show. There's a code clash happening too. Comedian code. No topic is protected. Only execution. If it hits, it lives. If it misses, you eat it and write better. Athlete code. Respect is the floor. Family isn't a line. It's a wall. Cross it, accept what comes with it. Put those 2 rule books in the same room and sparks aren't an accident. They're guaranteed. So when Stack brings up the painful backstory behind that 95 moment, he's not just checking facts, he's defending a value. We don't turn trauma into trophies. Craig defends a different value. Tell it how people actually tell it. Messy, sharp, sometimes unfair. 2 systems of honor colliding in public. Everyone says they love real, but real isn't just laughs and standing ovations. It's the ugly parts too. When real cuts your favorite, the instinct is to shut the window. When real powers your set, you throw the blinds open. Call it hypocrisy if you want. I call it gravity. It pulls on both sides. And here's the twist. In 2025, it's not networks deciding who's right. It's audiences. The people who understand that game, who know when to lean into context, when to lean into candor, win the week. But the win you actually remember isn't a clapback or a clip. It's the bigger picture we're about to lay out next. This isn't a newsroom anymore. It's a crowded street with 1,000 stages. Comics build empires by saying the quiet part out loud. Athletes do the same by telling the stories old media watered down. When those worlds meet, it's not a crash. It's a merger. The product is conflict content, and it pays. Attention here isn't given. It's traded. You trade a spicy line for 3 days of spotlight. You trade a sharp correction for trust with your core. You trade a challenge for instant virality. Every move is a currency exchange, and the rate changes by the hour. The wild part? The audience is both the bank and the judge. They reward what they claim to hate. They scroll past what they claim to want. Outrage gets shared. Nuance gets skipped. That's why we can box slapped. It was a rare promise of closure in a world that profits on cliffhangers. Most beefs fade into quiet edits and soft apologies. A ring suggests an ending, the one thing the algorithm never gives for free. People showed up because they thought a finish line might appear. But the finish line isn't the lesson. The line is. If we want unfiltered podcasts and fearless comedy built on public lives, we either set real house rules or admit we're improvising them in real time. Not about sanitizing the art, it's about acknowledging the shrapnel. Try this. Same roast, one surgical tweak. Name the painful context before the punchline. Does it land softer? Maybe. Does it still land? Also maybe. Timing and one sentence of empathy can be the difference between disrespect and dark honesty. And athletes don't get a pass. If edge is the brand, edge cuts both ways. You can't sell candor, then file a noise complaint when the neighbors talk loud. If the rule is no low blows, hang that sign before the bell and live by it, whether the jab comes from a comic, a journalist, or a fan account. One more twist before we wrap. The internet already crowned a winner. Not Craig. Not Stack or Barnes. The clip won. The second it made you choose. The only question left is whether the next clip is on your terms or the timelines. One roast poked a brand. One comment dragged in context. 4 words promised a result. And the crowd did what it always does. Turned it into a vote on where the line is. If you came for a verdict, here's the closest you'll get. Jokes aren't harmless just because we like them. Feelings aren't law just because they hurt. Every modern show lives in that tense little gap. Be honest. Do you still want comedy with teeth when it bites your favorite face? Do you still want athletes to talk like humans when their human rules don't match your entertainment needs? That tension isn't a bug. It's the feature. It's why you clicked and why you're still here. My take is simple. If a line is sacred, name it before the cameras roll. If a joke is worth telling, be bold enough to hold its edges and grown enough to carry its fallout. And for the rest of us, maybe admit our outrage is just curiosity wearing a louder jacket. We don't want less smoke. We want clarity. Who's lighting it and who's breathing it in? Drop your vote below. Roast or respect, and tell me why. Screenshot your comment for your receipts folder. If this story moves from comments to consequences, you'll see it here first. Take a breath. The internet will pick a new villain by Thursday. But the line you choose today, you'll carry it into every clip you watch tomorrow. And if you've made it this far, you already know. This was never just about a fight. It was a mirror. What you saw in it says more about us than it ever will about them.